So, ladies and gentlemen of the Coaching Masters. Now, even if you're listening to this on the podcast, I still consider you, of course, to be one of the Coaching Masters because you're here, you're listening to this. This may be the first ever episode of the Coaching Masters podcast that you've ever heard. And still, of course, I consider you to be one of the Coaching Masters because you're here now, you're part of the family, you're part of the tribe. And also, listening to the Coaching Masters podcast, there are seasoned Coaching Masters, people that have been with us for many years. And of course, there are so many people watching me record the Coaching Masters podcast completely live inside of Coaching Mastery, the Coaching Masters completely free online community for online coaches. It's called Coaching Mastery for Online Coaches on Facebook. Go and check it out and come and watch me record these TCM podcast episodes completely live. So today, guys, how to work from home as an online coach. That's what we're talking about. Now, there's a few different things that I want to address here because when it comes to being able to build an online coaching business, naturally, one of the most desirable elements of building a successful online coaching business is the ability to travel. I know that, I understand that, I embrace that, I love it. I am a big fan of traveling the world and I want to try to travel as much as possible throughout my entire life. I would love to go to as many places as I possibly can and really adventure. In 2019, I went to 16 countries in 11 months, right? And this was before, obviously, COVID happened and it became a little bit more difficult to travel. I was traveling all the time, me and my wife, and this was before we became parents as well. Not that that should ever stop you, of course. I'm a firm believer that travel and exploration and seeing other cultures and endeavoring to understand other cultures is actually a very good education for kids. But what we're going to be talking about today is something that I firmly believe gets completely and utterly overlooked. Naturally, we have the desire to travel and we have the desire to build a coaching business that is successful enough that we are able to travel to other countries whilst making money. But what we're talking about today is the ability to make money from your home, because that is so overlooked, right? And this is something that I really love and appreciate so much, and I hold dear to me so much for a few different reasons, right? The reasons that I love working from home is because I love my home. I love where I live. Me and my wife, Claudia, back in 2019, we purchased this gorgeous penthouse in the middle of London. If you've not seen it, go onto my Instagram and look at my highlights. And I did a highlight all about our home, and I'll give you a little tour of the home. And I really love it, right? I really love being at home because I really love and appreciate where it is that I live. And so that feeling also, and I can imagine even if I was living in this is absolutely true because I did experience this. Before we purchased this penthouse, we lived in a tiny little 1-bedroom flat above a pub in the middle of Borough Market in London, right at the foot of London Bridge. Now, of course, as a location, that place was absolutely phenomenal. And the apartment was really nice as well. It wasn't a modern apartment. It was like quite an old apartment, but it was gorgeous, right? It was really nice. But for me, I really don't even think it wouldn't matter that much to me where I live. It's more about the ability to not have to leave my home to go to work if I don't want to. There's something really psychological about that I think is actually very important to address. Like, let me give you an example. Remember when we were kids, right? Remember when we were kids and we had to go to school, right? Now, not everybody's going to have the exact same experience depending on where you're from or depending on what family you grew up with or what their values or beliefs were. But like, I'm talking a little bit of a generalization, but for me, I'm a very just normal working class person from Southeast London. I had a very working class family. I had to go to school. It was just the thing, right? It was never questioned. It was, of course, there is an argument now about whether or not the school system is fucking even worth it. But once again, we're not even going to go down that rabbit hole today. That's another conversation for another time. But back in back in the day where I had to go to school, it wasn't something that was questioned. It wasn't something that was, we didn't fight against it or whatever. I just had to go to school. Now, I can imagine that's probably going to be a very similar experience for most people listening to this podcast, or indeed watching me record this Power Hour. But can you remember the feeling of those one-off days every so often where we pretended we were sick, right? I can imagine we all did that. I didn't do it that much, but, I definitely did it on a few occasions where I pretended I was sick just because I wanted to stay at home. And can you remember, right? Can you remember that incredible feeling of just being at home when you knew that, one, you weren't supposed to be at home, you were supposed to be at this other place, right? You were supposed to be in school and you were supposed to be sitting in your classroom doing your work, right? And you were at home. And maybe your brothers and sisters were at school, maybe your mum or your dad was at work, depending on who was looking after you at the time. And I just remember there was this such strong feeling in the pit of my stomach, which was like a combination of exhilaration and excitement. And in all honesty, when I was at home, I probably wasn't even doing anything because I half of me was thinking, I need to kind of keep up this act that I'm sick. And looking back at it now, of course, my parents probably knew I wanted just a day off. But, so you kind of end up playing some video games or watching some TV or whatever. It's not like you do anything groundbreaking. You don't do anything amazing. But you got that incredible feeling where you're like, yeah, but I'm at home. And I'm not supposed to be at home, but I'm at home. I don't have to go anywhere today. I've woken up in the morning. I've convinced my parents that I'm sick. I don't have to put my school uniform on. I don't have to get my bag. I don't have to walk to school. I don't have to go and sit in that classroom today. Everyone else is. Everyone else will be there, but I don't have to be there. I get to be at home and do what I want to do. Now, I'll tell you what's really funny and really interesting is when you make that transition from going to work, because it's so bizarre, isn't it? Things don't change that much really in terms of like the transition from school to work. It's still one physical location that you have to go to. A lot of jobs have a uniform. Now, if you are required to wear a suit and tie to your work, right? Or the ladies' version of that, pencil skirts and a nice shirt, that's a fucking uniform. Let's not piss about. Let's not make any mistake about it. That's a uniform, right? Now, trust me, I know about wearing uniforms. I was a Royal Mail postman for a long time. Before that, I was a lifeguard. I had a uniform. Before that, I was a barman. I had a uniform. At one point, I was an estate agent and I've tried to be a stockbroker. I had to wear a suit to work every day. It's a fucking uniform, right? The reason why it's a uniform is because if I don't wear it, it's unusual, right? If you have a place of work and that place of work requires you to wear pencil skirt, whatever, trousers, shirt, suit, tie, jacket, smart shoes, blah, 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 and you rocked up one day and you weren't wearing that and it was awkward because you wasn't wearing it, that's a uniform, straight up. So anyway, I've had every other job I ever had before I made the decision to become a coach and grow my own coaching business, had a uniform, every other job. Same as school, right? We have a school uniform in school. There's a physical location, your office, that you need to go to or place of work. There's a uniform that you need to wear. There's a particular lunch break that you get at a particular time. There's a set of steps you need to take in order to do your work. You're with colleagues who are in the same situation, much like your friends at school. There's not that much of a difference between going to school and going to work. And of course, there's a reason for that, right? It's not by mistake. There's a reason. It's by design. Naturally, of course, we want to be... Again, it's a conversation for another time, and I am going to get onto the point of working from home. But the school system is built in a way where we need to develop workers instead of thinkers. But anyway, we're thinkers here in this group because you're listening to the Coaching Masters podcast. You're in Coaching Mastery. You have an intention of building your very own online coaching business. So naturally, by default, we're thinkers. So we want more. We want something else. We want something different. And what's really interesting is when you make that transition from going to work, needing to go to work at a certain time, setting your alarm in the morning for a certain time, knowing you've got a certain amount of time to get up in the morning, have breakfast, get ready, stick your uniform on, and get to work, and you're there for a certain amount of hours, and you've got a certain lunch break, and you've got to come home at a certain time. When you make that transition from ditching that and leaving that behind and growing your own online coaching business where you are the decision maker and you are the boss, you get that same feeling that you used to get when you were in school and you were bunking off, right? It's really bizarre. Like you get that feeling, and that feeling never really goes away. You wake up with this feeling of excitement every day, thinking, I don't need to go anywhere today. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, so anyway, guys, the reason why I'm talking about this so much is because when people want to start their own online life coaching business, a lot of the time, the initial pull and desire is, if I can build a business which allows me to run that business from my laptop, then I can travel the world. And that is definitely something I want people to have their focus on, because if that's something that drives you and that's something that motivates you, then really do put your focus on it. But before you jump to that place, right? Before you jump to that point, just get excited about the idea, not necessarily of being able to travel the world, but just get excited about the idea of not having to go to the physical location that you've needed to go to up until this point in your career. When I was a postman, I used to deliver mail to a Starbucks, right? I lived in London Bridge, but I worked in Richmond, okay? It's a very nice area, technically kind of in London, kind of not, just on the outskirts. And I used to deliver mail to this one particular Starbucks that was literally on the high street in Richmond. If you know Richmond, you'll know it, right? If you walk right outside Richmond Station and you look directly in front of you and slightly off to the right, there's a Starbucks. And I used to deliver the mail to that Starbucks. And every single day, and this was before I, made the decision to become an online coach, there used to be, who I now, of course, know were clearly online entrepreneurs of some kind, people that worked from their laptops. There were people that were working in that Starbucks first thing in the morning when I delivered the mail, and they were there when I finished, right? Now, I used to start really early in the morning. I used to start delivering the mail at about 6 a.m. and I'd finish at 1, right? Now, they used to get there really early. They'd open up their laptops. They'd be working from their laptops. And initially, I'd feel this strong sense of jealousy where I'd think, God, I'd love that. I'd love to just be sitting there in this coffee shop and it's fucking snowing outside and it's raining. And I used to think, I'd love to just be able to sit in the warmth of this Starbucks, just nursing a vanilla latte whilst I open my laptop and I do whatever it is people do on their laptops, right? And then I'm out there delivering the mail, just like handing over the packages, just trying to get my round done as fast as possible. And then I finish at 1 o'clock and they're still there and they haven't moved and they're just working away. And every single day I used to think, I'd love that. I would really and truly love that. Now, fortunately, I became a coach, right? Now, you've heard my story. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Go and listen to some of the other podcasts. But, I went through a process of becoming an online coach, learning a set of tools and techniques and methods that are used to be able to help add value to people's lives in the form of breaking down their limiting beliefs, shifting their perspective, increasing their confidence, helping them achieve their goals, helping them get stuck and then move closer towards where they want to be. All of the stuff that we know coaching does, right? So at the time, I went through a process of learning about all of these things, mastering all of these things, practicing all of these things, until I got to a point where I made the decision, this is it. I'm not going to do this postman job anymore. I'm going to take a risk. And it was a risk at the time because I didn't make a lot of money as a postman, but I only had a very small amount saved up, right? I had a couple of months saved up. And so I thought, I'm going to pack this in and I'm going to become a coach. And at the time, I didn't have any paying clients. I hadn't proven to myself that I had the ability to grow this coaching business or even start this coaching business. But still, I got to a point where I just said, enough is enough. I've got to pack this in and I need to take a leap of faith and I need to do something where I'm in control. I need to do something that will allow me to work from home and wear what I want to wear and get up at the time I want to get up and go to the places I want to go to. There came a point where I said, enough is enough. I can't fucking wear a uniform anymore. I can't be told what to do, where to go, what time to be there, what time to have my lunch, what time to go home, how to do this job, how to do that, how to this. I just got to a point where I thought, screw this. I need to work for myself. Now, I'd made that decision beforehand when I made the decision, right, I'm going to become a coach. I'm going to learn how this works. I'm going to build a coaching business. But there came a point where there was a point of no return, a point of no turning back. I need to now make this work. I created a tradition for myself when I first became a coach. When I first became a coach, I couldn't afford Starbucks coffee or Cafe Nero or Costa coffee every day, right? I couldn't afford it every day. So I could afford it once a week. Now, bearing in mind, this was when I first quit my job and I hadn't brought in any clients yet at this point. And even then, I created a bit of a tradition for myself that I still do to this day. I still do it. Every single Friday, I go into the city first thing in the morning and I work from a coffee shop for the first half of the day. Then I go and get myself some lunch. And then I spend the second half of the day working from a pub. And I get myself a pint of lager shandy, right? Whatever lager they have, I don't give a fuck. Put a little bit of lemonade on the top of it. And that's my Fridays, right? That's my Fridays. Still to this day, having taken my coaching business from not ever having one client, right? Back at the start of 2017, not having one client, to now owning the Coaching Masters, which turns over $2 million a year. I still do that every Friday. That's my treat to myself. That's my tradition. I go into the city, spend the first half of the day working from a coffee shop, second half of the day working from a pub. Now that, to me, that's freedom. To me, that's freedom. Can I travel the world? Of course I can travel the world. I run my entire business from this one MacBook that I've got sitting in front of me, and we're going to go into the logistics in a minute. Of course I can do that, right? And I do that when me and my family have the ability to jump on a plane and travel, whatever, right? But I really, really, really want us to focus in on one very core element of building a coaching business that is not spoken about enough. And that is the simple level of freedom of being able to stay at home and not have to leave your house to go to work. It's the simple level of freedom of being able to work in a coffee shop and not have to leave that coffee shop in order to go to your place of work. Now, when I first became a coach and I started that tradition, there was no better feeling in the world than going to that coffee shop first thing in the morning, getting a good solid couple of hours worth of work done, planning my coaching sessions for my clients, sending some emails, doing a discovery call. And then when it hits 8:30 in the morning, watching everybody leave to go to their offices with these horrible, gaunt, pale looks on their faces because they're going and doing the freaking grind day after day. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to get myself another latte because I've got 2 discovery calls today. I've got a few emails to send. I'm planning my next coaching session. Boom. And no one's going to tell me what to do. It's these elements of freedom that I want people to focus in on. So anyway, there are 3 things. Logistically, there are 3. I mean, one of these isn't really physical. 2 of these are not physical, but you'll know what I mean when I say 3 physical, logistical things that you need in order to make this happen. You need a laptop. You need Wi-Fi, you need Zoom, right? What do you think I'm using right now in order to communicate with all of you, right? This is, for the most part, a lot of the stuff that you need in order to build a very successful coaching business is free software, right? Like Zoom, like Facebook. And of course, you're going to spend some money on a laptop. You're not going to spend money on Wi-Fi if you're sitting out in a coffee shop. You only have to spend money on the coffee that you're actually purchasing. But anyway, we all have Wi-Fi at home, so it's not like we're buying an additional thing to build a business. Laptop, Wi-Fi, Zoom. So long as you've got a laptop or a phone, bearing in mind, which for the most part we've all got, Wi-Fi, which is everywhere, and Zoom, which is free, then you have the logistical elements of what you need to be able to add value to another person's life in the form of a coaching session, right? In the form of a coaching session. Naturally, what you need in order to make that work, you need two additional things to really make that work. First and foremost, you need the knowledge of how to coach someone, okay? You need to know what tools to use, what techniques to use, what questions to ask, what frameworks to use to be able to take somebody from where they are currently stuck to where they want to be, right? That's the first piece of knowledge that you need to gain. That's the first piece of knowledge. So far, all you need are 3 logistical items, a laptop, Wi-Fi, and Zoom. And then in addition to those 3 logistical items, you need 2 pieces of knowledge. You need 1, the knowledge of how to actually coach someone, and 2, the knowledge of how to build a coaching business, i.e., and again, we're not going to go into this in detail because this is another podcast episode all on its own, how to find your niche, right? How to understand who it is you're going to coach, how to brand yourself, how to build your authority, how to find leads, where do they live online, how do you communicate with them with social media content that speaks directly to your niche, how do you spark a conversation, how do you give away a free discovery call, how do you attract people into your space so they're booking free discovery calls without you needing to consciously think about it. What do you say when you're on a discovery call? How much of it is coaching? How much of it is selling? At what point do I cross over from coaching to talk about prices? 2 sets of knowledge, 2 bits of knowledge, how to actually coach and how to build a coaching business. And as long as you have those 2 elements, right, those 2 bits of knowledge, naturally, of course, which we teach here at the Coaching Masters, and you have those 3 logistical items, a laptop, Wi-Fi, and Zoom, you have what you need to be able to build a very successful coaching business, because every single person on this earth, in one form or another, is stuck in some way, right? People tend to be stuck in various different ways, but you can pretty much guarantee that everybody on this planet is stuck in one way or another, because we are complex human beings. None of us are perfect. None of us are the finished article. None of us are flawless, right? Including me. I've got tons of flaws, trust me. And we could all use some additional insight and perspective around the things that we are stuck on. Right? So for instance, maybe people feel a lack of confidence and they could do with a confidence coach. Maybe people are unfulfilled in their job and they could do with a career coach or a business coach. Maybe people finding it hard to gain focus and they could do with a focus coach. Maybe people are experiencing negative emotions on a continuous basis that they don't want, such as depression, anxiety, fear, jealousy, and there are coaches for those things. This is the power of the niche, of course. This is the power of being a specialist. But every person on this earth, in one way or another, is stuck in one thing, right? With one thing. So what does that tell us? Well, if anyone knows about business basics and the basics of supply and demand, it means that there is an absolutely phenomenal demand for coaches, because people are realizing more and more and more now, I don't need to do this on my own. I don't need to walk around in the dark bumping into chairs. I can hire someone who is going to give me a shift in perspective, shine a light on my blind spots, and help me find the way. Therefore, I'm going to accelerate my progress way faster and move closer towards that desire I want, way faster than if I was doing this thing by myself. And that person is called a coach. And the demand is high. The supply is very low. Very, very, very low. There are not that many coaches out there in the big wide world. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Never, ever, ever, ever let Facebook's algorithm convince you that everybody is a coach. Just because you have taken an interest in coaching, Facebook's algorithm on Facebook and Instagram all of a sudden will show you a whole bunch of people who are also coaches. Never fall into the trap of thinking, holy shit, everyone's a coach, because trust me, we are a tiny, tiny little blip, a tiny little dot on the great map of the entire world. Just trust me on that. All you need to do to prove it to yourself is walk down the street and ask the first 10 people that you come across, what's a coach? And some of them will go, oh, it's a big bus, isn't it? It takes you from A to B. And some people will go, what, like my football coach? And not that many people will be able to say a coach is a person who helps you shift your perspective, shine a light on your blind spots, and accelerate your progress towards something that you truly desire. Trust me when I say The demand is high, the supply is low. This is an absolutely phenomenal time to become an online coach. But in order to work from home as an online coach, you need the things that I've spoken about, right? You need those things. Logistically, you need a laptop or phone, you need Wi-Fi, you need Zoom. That's what you need to be an online coach. Then you need 2 sets of knowledge. You need to know how to actually coach people. Of course, this podcast episode isn't about going into the depths of how to coach someone. There's an unbelievable amount of information within the Coaching Masters that teaches you how to do that. But that is the first bit of knowledge that you need. You need to know what to do when you're faced with a client. But not only what to do, you need to know how to get them results and how to move them closer towards what it is they want. And the second bit of knowledge that you need is how to actually build a coaching business, how to attract the right people into your space and convert those people from leads into customers, from leads into paying clients. If you can do that, you are putting yourself in a position where you are able to replicate. Would that be the word? Replicate? I guess it would be. Replace is probably a better word. You put yourself in a position where you can replace the income that you're currently making from the uniform-based job way quicker than what you think, way quicker. But some fundamental things need to happen, right? You need the things that I was talking about. First and foremost, you need to know how to coach people. Secondly, you need to know how to build up your own coaching business as an individual, how to find your niche, how to brand yourself, how to communicate directly with your specific target market, how to approach them, how to communicate with them, how to transition them away from a free coaching session to a paying client, how to construct a coaching package, say a 3-month coaching package that you'll charge £1,500 for. You know, if you're bringing on 4 new clients a month, we're talking that's £6,000 a month. If you're charging £1,500 for a coaching package, you get to replace your current income way faster than what you think you would. You just need those fundamental things, right? The world has completely changed. It's changed so much. It's beyond recognition. There was a time not very long ago that you would have been laughed out the room at the idea of simply working from home. That would have just been such an I still know people now, right? I've got relatives who are taxi drivers. I've got relatives who are plumbers. I've got relatives who are carpenters. I've got relatives that have worked in shops their whole life and worked behind tills. And I swear to God, they just cannot process the idea that I work from my house. They just don't, they just doesn't compute with them. And you know what? You can't blame them for that, because in reality, this is not something that has been around for a long period of time. This is still completely in its infancy. This is still brand new. The idea of running a business from your laptop, right? Running a business from home. But if you really break it down, it's a very simple process, right? It really is a simple process. Making the decision, basically, again, this is another topic for another podcast episode, but it's the 6A process that me and Lewis talk about all the time. It's the 6A process. So let's imagine for a moment, you do have a laptop. And let's imagine you do have Wi-Fi. And let's imagine that you are able to download Zoom. So boom, we've got the logistics, okay? We've got the foundation of the logistics we need to be able to work from home as a coach. Second, the first piece of knowledge that you need, as you know, is how to coach people. Now, we supply that knowledge by the bucket load inside of the Coaching Masters, and you're also here listening to the Coaching Masters podcast, of which there are literally hundreds of episodes where I give you different tools and techniques and methods to use with your clients. So, and it doesn't matter if you don't have any clients yet, you can use them on your future clients, but at least gain the knowledge. So you also have access to the ability to be able to coach people. Of course, those people that do our live interactive 12-week coaching accreditation program take that to a whole new level. But even within the Coaching Masters podcast, especially within the Coaching Masters membership, even within our free resources, we can teach you how to help another person, right? As a coach, you as an individual. And then, like I mentioned, the last piece of knowledge of how to build the coaching business is very much about the 6 A's that we talk about. A number 1 is accuracy. How to get accurate, i.e., who do you help? Because there's no point learning a whole bunch of coaching tools and techniques and then saying, this is fucking amazing. I'm going to go and help everyone because I have the ability to do that. That's admirable and I understand it and it's an exciting prospect, but you cannot build a business that way. Because if you try to help everyone, no one's listening to you, right? If you try to speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. You need to know specifically who you're talking to. So that is the first A, is to get accurate around what we refer to as your niche. Now, your niche is just a fancy name for the type of person that you are going to coach, right? And making a firm decision that this is the type of person I coach and I don't coach anyone else. i.e., as an example, right? Your niche could be men in their 50s who work in marketing who have just experienced a messy divorce. Totally off the top of my head, but for instance, that would be a niche demographic, right? So that's the first A, is get accurate. Who am I going to help? And then the second A is awareness, right? Where do those people spend time online? Where are they? Where do they exist? Now, again, this is the power of the niche, because if you know who you're speaking to, then you know where to find them. Once again, for those coaches that say, no, I'm not going to have a niche, I'm just going to coach everyone. It's not going to work, right? It's not going to work because everyone doesn't spend time in one place. Everyone doesn't have the same fear. Everyone doesn't have the same doubt. Everyone doesn't have the same desire. And everyone means that no one will listen, right? If you try to talk to everyone. So by getting accurate, which is the first day, you now know where to find those people, right? There are Facebook groups. There are all sorts of different places, little pockets around the internet where people gather. Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups are a very good one because, of course, they're already there. They exist. Instagram hashtags even are a good one. You can actually find a collection of people that are following one particular hashtag that is related to your niche. There's loads of little things. Of course, we teach this in absolute depth within the Coaching Masters Ultimate Launch Program and within the TCM membership. But this is the basics of it, right? This is the basics of that structure. A, being accurate, right? Number 1, being accurate. Number 2, awareness, knowing where those people spend time. And then number 3, making sure and endeavoring that you're making the effort to become an authority inside of that one particular niche. So let's say if your niche was men in their 50s that work in marketing who have just experienced a messy divorce, then there are two different types of places where that person probably spends time, i.e. people that work in marketing. There's a few different places, men of a certain age and men experiencing a divorce. There are going to be collections of groups of that exact same demographic in at least those 3 different places. So then the question is, how do I become the authority figure for that individual? Now, let me give you an example. I'll give you a fucking great example. When it comes to the coaching space, right? But not just the coaching space. When it comes to being a trainer of coaches, somebody who trains coaches how to become better coaches and how to build their coaching businesses, have I or have I not built an authority inside of that space? To the point where you think, I'm going to listen to Liam, he knows what he's talking about. That's someone who I can follow in his footsteps, I can learn from him, and by doing that and taking his guidance, I'll build a more successful coaching business. When you look out there in the big wide world and you see these other very empty coaching schools, like the Coaching Academy, Animas, and all that, where you don't know the people who are teaching you, just answer me that question. Have I or have I not successfully built an authority inside of the coaching trainer space, right? Now, that's not by accident, right? I have consciously thought about how can I become that person? How can I become, me and Lewis together as a team, how can we become the people that those look up to, that say, I want to learn from those individuals. I want to follow in their footsteps. They're clearly authorities inside of this field. It's not by accident. And this is a lesson that I want to be able to hand over to all of you. I swear to God, I'm going to be able to save you years of heartache if you listen to this. Ask yourself the question, how can I become an authority inside of that field? How can I become an authority? First and foremost, you want to endeavor. I do believe I use that word, right? Endeavor basically means to attempt and to work hard towards. You want to make sure, right? You want to make sure that you know as much about that niche as possible, that you're as knowledgeable as possible, so that at any point, if anyone asks you a question about the niche, you've got an answer and you know the answer is insightful, that you take an interest in that niche and inside that area. And then after really taking an interest in it, after really studying it, after really making sure that you know everything there is to know about that one area, like for instance, I'm so confident that anyone can ask me any question about coaching, and I swear to God, I'll know the answer, right? That's just because I have endeavored to make sure that I've got that level of knowledge whilst on this journey of building my authority. So take a genuine interest, really understand it, really, really study it, but then put yourself in a position where you are being seen and being heard. Because if you're being seen and being heard talking about this niche, and you do not deter away from the niche. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, you are a confidence coach that helps women in their 40s that work in the financial sector. Don't go and start talking about doggy yoga or fucking teenage depression, right? Because it will just completely dilute the message, and people will think, well, hang on a minute, I thought this person was an expert and I want them to hear them talk about this one thing, and now they're talking about something completely fucking different, completely random. You don't go to a Tony Robbins event to be pumped up, full of energy and excitement and inspiration, for him to spend half the time on stage talking about baking, right? Or talking about dog walking or whatever, right? Or something else that someone else would have a genuine interest in. But you pick your speciality and you say, this is me, this is what I do, okay? And then it means that your life is so much easier, because you get the ability to be able to only talk about those very select few things. So let's say, for instance, if you were, I always give this example because it's the first one that pops into my head. No, let's use a different one. Let's say that you were a confidence coach that did work with women in their 40s who worked in the financial sector. You want to just make sure that that's your one and only message, that you just talk about how to build confidence. But not only that, you talk about how women build confidence. But not only that, you specifically talk about how women in their 40s that work in the financial sector build confidence. And what you will find is you will find yourself repeating the same message again and again and again and again and again. And that's okay. Because one of my mentors, Ed Milet, he said, and this is so unbelievably true, he said, experts say the same thing on repeat to different people. And those who are not an expert try their best but fail to continuously say something different to the same people. We want to be experts. We want to say the same thing on repeat to different people, right? Now, let me give you an example just off the top of my head. I don't know why this popped into my head, but, you know, it's the power of the niche. Bill Nye, the science guy, right? Has everybody heard of Bill Nye, the science guy? He only fucking talks about science. And of course he only talks about science. He's Bill Nye, the fucking science guy. He found his niche. He's nailed it. He's cracked it. So someone thinks science, they think Bill Nye. Someone thinks Bill Nye, they think science guy. He's cracked his niche, right? Bill Nye, the science guy, isn't talking about baking. He's not talking about yoga. He's not talking about anything. He may have an interest in those things on a personal level, right? On a personal level, but that's not his message, right? His message that he talks about science. So anyway, that's authority, building up an authority inside of that space. And then once you've done that, it makes it so much easier to move on to the fourth A, which is attraction, which is all about attracting people inside of your niche into your space. Because if you've built an authority inside of that space and it's all you ever talk about, then naturally people inside of that space are going to go like this and just gravitate towards you. Because every post you ever create, every video you ever film, your social media profiles, if you write an ebook, if you go and be a guest expert on someone else's group, if you go and talk on someone's podcast, if you get featured on someone's YouTube channel, if you write an article for a newspaper, if you write an article for a magazine, it's all 100% focused on these things. Every single article that's ever been written about me or that I've ever written and had it published, it's all about coaching. There is nothing else. It's all about becoming a coach, because that's the thing that I niche in, right? That's my speciality. So the more you then talk about these things, you attract the right people into your space. And then after having attracted them into your space, which is the 4th A, you move on to the 5th A, which is approach. And then you're in a position of authority where you're able to approach those people that interact with you and your content and what you do, and show a level of love and appreciation for what you do, because they quite clearly are within your niche and they need what you do. Okay? And then you approach them with the one and only intention, which is to add more value to their life in the form of a completely free coaching session. Completely free. And this will become what we refer to as the discovery session, offering those people that have now been attracted into your space with a completely free coaching session. So you can indeed add a ton of value to that person's life, to show them exactly why you are who you are and why you do what you do. And then, of course, make the transition from coaching them to bringing them on as a paying client, which is a specific process. We teach it on the Ultimate Launch program. And there are elements of it that we teach within the Coaching Masters membership as well. But that is a very, very, very powerful process that will allow you to work from home. Now, for those of you that are asking yourselves, what is the 6th A? The 6th A is then going through a process of trying to automate the process as much as possible. Once again, this is something that we teach within the TCM membership and on the Ultimate Launch program. But in a nutshell, it's about building up yourself as an authority in that space, writing an ebook to assist and help and add value to the people within that space, and then creating a funnel in which people download the ebook and have the ability to automatically book in a discovery session with you. So you wake up in the morning with a diary of discovery sessions, right? Which is a lot easier to do than what you can imagine. But those are the 6 A's: accuracy, awareness, authority, attraction, approach, and automation. Accuracy, who do we help? Awareness, where are they? Where do they spend time? Authority, how do I become an authority in that field? Attraction, how do I write content and put out value to attract them into my space? Approach, then I'm going to approach them because they're clearly engaging with what it is I do. And then upon approaching them, offer them a free discovery session. And then off the back of the free discovery session, you bring them on as a paying client and then eventually automate the process. If you do that, ladies and gentlemen, you have the ability to work from your house. And I tell you what, it is one of the most incredible feelings, right? Now, I used to have an office, but that's now Posey's nursery. That's now Posey's bedroom. And so, and I'm always completely transparent about this. I've always told you that. This is where I'm at right now. This is my bedroom where I'm at. Mine and Claudia's bedroom. So a few logistical things. I got a laptop. I got Wi-Fi. I got Zoom. I've got this little desk. I've got this microphone. I've got that ring light. I'm in this bedroom. And what do you think I'm doing inside of this room? I'm building a big and successful coaching business. If I can build a coaching business like the Coaching Masters that turns over at the moment about $2 million a year, which is going to be a lot more by the time you listen to this in a couple of years' time, in my bedroom from my laptop, each and every one of you can definitely replace your current income from whatever job you have to go to in the morning. You absolutely can do that. And you can do that with a lot less clients than what you think. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you all. You are incredible. You're valued. You're heard. You're coaching masters. I love you all. You're amazing. Mwah. Speak to you very soon.